Welcome to the Academic Writing Series. I'm Dr. Pravina Rodrigues, co-editor-in-chief of Springer's Journal of Dharma Studies and professor at Starr School for the Ministry in California. I've published a book, several articles, and I've been a writing coach for grad students in the United States for several years. Wish you could read twice as fast without missing the important stuff? Well, you're not alone, because you could be a student drowning in reading lists or a professional, an academic trying to keep up. And in any case, this video is for you. Speed reading is the art of reading quickly and efficiently so that you can retain more in less time. Most people read about 200 to 250 words per minute, the same pace that we speak. But our brain can handle a lot more than that. Speed reading taps into this unused potential. Most speed reading tips online promise to help you double or sometimes even triple your reading speed, and they use various techniques like minimizing subvocalization, using peripheral vision, tracing lines with your finger, etc. They all sound great. But in my experience, these hacks fall short when it comes to deep analytical reading, which demands much more than just fast eye movement. And that's why I'll be sharing insights from Zachary Shore's Grad School Essentials, a far more grounded and effective guide that has been useful to me and my students in the United States, and especially if you're pressed for time, balancing academic work, family, teaching, caregiving, what have you. This video will teach you how to read with purpose and depth. So before we jump into today's video on speed reading, let me introduce you to someone whose work we'll be drawing from, Zachary Shore. He's not just another academic. You can actually think of him as a scholarly GPS. Zachary Shore is a professor of history at the Naval Postgraduate School and a senior fellow at UC Berkeley's Institute of European Studies. I also had the honor of meeting him one time. He did his doctorate in modern history at Oxford in, I think, about 3 years' time. That's also because he did it from the United Kingdom. And they do not have something called coursework out there, I believe. And he's written books that are both sharp and smart. Grad School Essentials, a crash course in scholarly skills, is one of them. And this book is going to be a guide today. I'll be using content from this book. He has written several other books with titles like Blunder, A Sense of the Enemy, and Breeding Bin Ladens. So clearly, this is someone who knows a thing or two about how we think and how we can read. So if you've ever tried speed reading apps only to end up more dizzy than done, stick around because we're going to get real about what works and what doesn't with a little help from Dr. Shore. Welcome back. Zachary Shore talks about one of the most counterintuitive but incredibly useful strategies for speed reading in the humanities and social sciences, moving through text in a non-linear fashion. Now, I know that sounds a little odd because, we're taught to read from the start to the finish, from cover to cover, especially when you're reading a novel. Now, you wouldn't skip around if it were a Sherlock Holmes mystery book, unless you wanted to completely ruin the suspense, right? But here's the thing. Academic writing is not like fiction. In fact, like I mentioned in my previous video, academic texts are designed not to surprise you. There are no plot twists. The big reveal is often already in the abstract, the introduction, sometimes even in the blurb of the book. So when you're reading for research or for coursework, you're allowed, even encouraged, to jump around, to skim. This non-linear approach can help you save time. It'll help you focus on what's actually useful for your purpose and make dense reading far more manageable than you can ever imagine. In Chapter 1 of Grad School Essentials, Zachary Shore tackles what he calls book zombies, those moments when you're just reading for hours and you can't really absorb anything. And he introduces a 5-step method for active, non-linear reading. And instead of just explaining it, he actually walks you through the process in a rather simple fashion. So I highly recommend that you read this book. If you don't have the book and if you'd like to receive it, email me, comment on the video, and I'll send you the book. Now, this method that Dr. Shore talks about works best for modern scholarly texts in the humanities and social sciences. It will not work for classics like Plato. And the reason being because classics like Plato, they are sources that demand a different kind of reading, slower reading, like a closer read, not a jump around approach. So the most essential shift that you will make in speed reading is read for thesis and not just content. So before he even discusses his 5-part method, he says readers must read for thesis, not for content. Every author, whether writing about history, politics, literature, or culture, is making an argument. And that central argument, that thesis, is the backbone of their entire work. So, as a student or as a scholar, our job is to find it, to understand it, and critically evaluate it. Now, before we think about even evaluating it, we have to first find it. So, when we read a text, our main question is going to be not what does it say, but what is it arguing? What is it arguing for? Or what is it arguing against? Shore says, think about it this way. You might have been assigned 5 different books on, for example, the French Revolution or the fall of a king. Why have you been assigned so many texts? Because each author has a different interpretation on a specific event. And what you want to do is spot those differences. So that's where academic thinking happens. It's not just in memorizing facts, but in identifying and engaging with arguments. Shore says there's also a practical reason for this. That is, reading for thesis. If you try to read every single word of every assigned text, especially in grad school in North America, you will burn out real fast. So skimming is not going to cut it, but you have to be really strategic about hunting for the thesis, finding its key supporting points, and that is what will help you focus on what truly matters in the text. Here is Zachary Shore's 5-step method. Step 1, you analyze the title and the subtitle. Step 2, you look, scrutinize the table of contents. Step 3, you read the last section first. Step 4, you then go back and read the introduction. And step 5 is you target what you think is the most important chapter of the book. And that's it, you're done. So this is the most useful tactic that Zachary Shore talks about. It's a non-linear way of understanding what the author's thesis is. If you have more time, of course, you can go back and read whatever it is that you are interested in reading. Or if you're so captivated by the book, you can just read every sentence in the book. However, this will help you understand the main thesis or the main argument of the author. So let's look at these a little bit in detail. Titles. Step 1 is titles. Titles act as clues to the author's thesis. So when you're reading, you're not just absorbing facts. You're on a search and critique mission. And the next video, we're going to talk about critique. However, right now, the search part involves finding the author's thesis. So thinking about what the title really means helps you save time by priming yourself to spot the thesis. Then we have subtitles, which are basically phrases that typically follow a colon. So for example, let's look at generic title like A History of Russia. That won't really help you much to understand the author's thesis. But something like The Clash of Civilizations signals the core argument right away, and it gives you a hint of what the author might be thinking about. Group genius, the creative power of collaboration. You might guess that the author is arguing against the notion that great ideas arise from solitary brainiacs. So chapter titles matter. They're not just labels. They are mini clues to understanding the author's overall argument, their central thesis. So we want to treat them as sub-thesis. Now that you've reflected on the title and the subtitle, you will now look at the table of contents. The table of contents, again, acts as a clue to understand the author's main thesis. So generally, an author will have a central argument, or sometimes within the argument, within that central argument, there will be woven additional sub-arguments. But all those subsections or sub-arguments are meant to support the central argument. So when you read the table of contents, you will get a sense of what the author is trying to communicate or how they are building their argument. Again, as you read through the table of contents, you will do exactly what you have done with the title and the subtitle. You will reflect and think of why a specific chapter is important or placed in the book. Step 3 is reading the last section, or what you would call the conclusion. Reading the conclusion allows you to understand what is the main point of the book. So you see, through these first 3 steps itself, we are not reading for content, we are reading for argument. And when we read this concluding section, we now understand what is the point that the author is making right away. And as we read, we analyze it, we critically analyze it. We will talk about analysis in the next video. But for now, we will just read and try to understand it as much as we can. What is the main point of the argument that the author is making? That is your third step. Step 4 is reading the introduction. So you see, we have not read in a linear fashion. Instead, we have read in a non-linear fashion. We have read the conclusion first, and then now we're going back and reading the introduction. And what reading the introduction does is it helps you understand the bigger picture. It helps you see, so you have now read the title, you have read the subtitle, you have read the table of contents, you have read the conclusion, and you have now read the introduction. This will give you the main point that the author is making. You will read the most important chapter of the book, or at least what you think is the most important chapter of the book. After you've read this, you know the entire argument that the author is making. Now, I've met students who have gone through this entire process and they still feel like they're missing something. So in that case, what you can do is complement this, and this is not something that Zachary recommends. However, it's just a suggestion. You can complement this 5-step method with a book review. You can get a book review from a renowned scholar or from whatever is available in your library. Students often complain in the United States that professor assigned them a lot of reading. I remember when I did my master's, for one class, we were reading literally 1 book per week. And believe me, there was no time to do anything at all. And then I came across this book, and it has been really, really helpful to me to read and to understand, to save a lot of time. That way I can take my goldfish for a walk. So I hope you have a wonderful time reading, speed reading, and doing whatever it is that you will do in the spare time. Thank you so much.